We're back. We're watching Combatineffective today. He's going to get an ace tanker today. He is in the Pudel, which is the tier 6 Polish premium tank. And he's on the map Abbey as a mid-tier. Let's go ahead and change it so you guys... Oh, we do have it. So you can see the names and the tanks. And so he is going, looks like, one line, which the Pudel is... It's basically... a Panther or a VK medium, the German medium, and it's got the tier 6, and I don't remember which one, but it's got a decent gun, it's got okay turret armor, and it's got kind of a crappy hull, but if you angle it properly it can work against lower tiers. So Combat has a set of binos on his tank, and he's just waiting for those binos to come up, and lo and behold, he gets a few people spotted there, so that's always good. And he notices that the SU-100 or SU-100Y, I'm sorry, it's early morning, has fired, so he goes ahead and takes a shot at him. So he's facing a heavy tank number 6 right now, and you're going to see that he snapshots a fair amount here, which I think he could have just sat here and punished this guy, and that's exactly what he decides to do. The Panther, or the Pudel, has, like I said, a fairly good gun. He's got 150 penetration, which is pretty good at tier 6. And it'll butter right through that 100 millimeters of armor that the heavy tank number 6 has. So he sticks his track out there, and the heavy tank number 6 takes the bait. Now, one thing that you'll notice is he doesn't have a good crew on this. Look how long it took for him to fix his tracks, right? So that could become important, and especially if you don't have your kit, you have to play much differently in this tank, because this thing does side scrape pretty well, just like most German tanks. I couldn't tell you what the side armor is on it, but in this game I would consider that it would probably side scrape pretty well. So it looks like they've lost the other side of the map, and Combat decides that he's going to kind of make a nest up here and see what he can do, right? There's a T-67 back there, but he has a ton of guys that are making the mistake of pushing directly forward. Artie is going to have lots of interest in them because there's really nothing else for them. You know, that's the big threat for them. They need to defend themselves. So Combat's kind of running around here looking for shots into the middle, and this is a position that you can get into that actually is pretty useful if your team spots stuff in the middle. But nevertheless, he gets lit, and that means it's time to pull back. It's likely that 1357 is somewhere lurking out there, and he's just going to let his binos come up and hopefully spot whatever is spotting him. So one of the things that you can do, okay, he's got a KV-3 anchoring this side, and this KV-3 has really held it down, right? So if you go into this corner, you can actually get shots on the guys that try and push this KV-3, and it looks like that's what he's decided to do now, because this KV-3 is not going to last forever, right? He's alone against at least 3 guys, and there he goes down. So Combat now, instead of being a backline tank, he is a frontline tank, although he is behind bushes here, and he's not in a terrible position because he can get view range onto the cap, and the bush that he's going to next is even better for that because it gets him a little bit closer and gets him a little more vision on the cap. So the Type 58, which I just started grinding, it's a terrible tank. The gun handling is insanely bad on it, but regardless, he decides he's going to go middle. And it's currently 8 to 9, and Combat has some good side shots on this Tiger P. And he's going to continue to put shots into this guy and hope. You know, he's got a T67 there, but a T67 is not going to pin that guy. So much for German accuracy, right? And at this point, I would have been impatient and loaded gold, but Combat does not decide to do that. He's just throwing shots into the KB1, who actually blind fires the bush that the KB1 blind fires, and he guesses wrong. So the T67 does a pretty smart thing and kind of runs away, but there's really not much that he can do, right, as far as the T67, because he relies on his stealth, and he's in a tier 7 game, and so really he's just doing the best he can. So one thing I would have done here is loaded gold, right? Because your gold rounds, and that's exactly what he's doing here. 194 pen on your gold rounds. The problem with the Tiger P, it's not a very good tank, but against low tiers, it is kind of a bully because it does have pretty good upper plate as opposed to the Tiger, and it's got that 240 alpha, and it's also got fairly good DPM. In fact, I would say excellent DPM. So Combat is just attempting to finish this guy off, and I think he does miss that shot. And it's 11 to 13, so Combat has got a he really needs to kill this guy, right? And he's finally able to do that. But it took him all but 127 of his health to do that. So in the right situation, the Tiger P can be actually a decent tank, but that is so little of the time. It's got weak sides, it's got the weak cheeks, you know, those 45-degree corners are weak, and of course a fairly large cupola. The only advantage it has is good DPM, and for heavy, I think it's relatively accurate, but it is super slow. So had Combat not bled him before he got to that corner, it would have been game over for Combat. And now Combat is in a situation where he's lit, and there's an Artie alive. He has changed back to standard rounds here, and he's got now a very dangerous tank in front of him in a 1357, which the 1357, most of them load gold, or even if they don't load gold standard, by now he's probably down to his gold rounds. So Combat's got to be very careful. And of course he's capping, and so Combat is attempting to side scrape here, which he does fairly well, and he does take 90 damage, and he lights the guy on fire, which once he lit him on fire would have been probably good just to fall back. But there's that T67 that ran away, and that's the end of Combat's game. So let's see. Let's fast forward this a little bit, because it's just an M41 Artie left, and he didn't appear to be firing all that much. So I don't know if he's either out of range. I don't know Arties that well, but I don't know if he's out of range, out of shells, or he's just a new player that was having a hard time aiming. So nevertheless, that was a pretty good game on Combat's part. The Pudel doesn't take a huge amount to ace, just because it's not a great platform. It's not doesn't have any one thing that you can count on, which is unusual. And the T67 finishes the game, Iron Cross, so shout out to you, Iron Cross, for helping Combat out. Let's go take a quick look at the after action report on this. Okay, Combat got an ace. He got a level Schleio's medal, which is for killing 2 tanks that are a tier higher than himself. He also got a high caliber. So he was on top of his team. That T67 did 800 damage, which is pretty good considering he was a bottom tier tank. But 2200 damage, anytime you do that much damage in a tier 6, you're going to be feeling pretty good. 33 shots, 25 hits, 15 pens. So that the accuracy wasn't so good there, but that's sometimes just lower tiers. So he also did 700 assist, which brings him up to almost 3K combined, which is always a good game in a tier 6. 5,600 credits. He fired some gold rounds, but he ammo switched when he needed to, and that was on a double, so he ended up with 2,900 XP. So we appreciate you sending that in. Keep sending your replays in. I'm going to record some today. I've got a couple more from other viewers, and we will catch you on the next one. Tonester out.